Good day, everyone. This is Sarah Grace A. Pilapel from BSBA 2. Today, we were going to discuss Lesson 24, Critique on the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, Republic Act Number 10354, also known as RH Law. In objectives, this module discusses background, rationale, salient provisions, and potential impacts of the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012 or RA 10354, also known as RH Law. This module also discusses the pros and cons of the said law. At the endpoint of this module, you should be able to first, understand fully the background, rationale, salient provisions, and potential impacts of the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012 or RA 10354, and second, have a stand or position on whether he or she agrees or disagrees on the existence and legality of the said law. As you will notice, it is quite common for your grandparents have 7 or 8 siblings. Some even have more. This is not the commonplace nowadays, as most couples settle for 2 or 3 kids. That is why most of you have few siblings unlike previous times. This phenomenon is very simple wherein children became costly in terms of time and resources. Rationale of the RH Law. The Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012 or RA 10354, also known as the RH Law, was primarily enacted on a vision that the poor will have access to reproductive health, goods and services which they cannot afford. Apparently, the failure of the market of RH goods and services to reach marginalized women compelled the Philippine government to step in and initiate measures to address this occurrence. With this law, the poor will likely have sufficient access to information about the proper use and effectiveness of these RH products. However, RH law was depicted by the paintings of promoting abortion and abortifacient products, the sinful and frowned upon by the Catholic Church. These are the elements of RH law. First, family planning information and about services. Second, maternal, infant, and child health and nutritious, including breastfeeding. Third, prevention of abortion and the management of post-abortion complication. Fourth, adolescent and youth reproductive health guidance and counseling. Fifth, prevention and management of reproductive tract infections, RTIs, HIV, AIDS, and XIs. 6. Elimination of VAWC and other forms of sexual and GBV. Next, education and counseling on sexuality and reproductive health. Treatment of breast and reproductive tract cancers and other gynecologic conditions and disorders. 9. Male responsibility and involvement in men's RH. 10. Prevention, treatment, and management of infertility and sexual dysfunction. 11. RH education for the adolescents. And last, mental health aspect of reproductive health care. Salient provisions. Midwives for skilled birth attendants. The law mandates every city and municipality to employ an adequate number of midwives and other skilled attendants. Emergency obstetric care. Each province and city shall ensure the establishment and operations of hospitals with adequate facilities and qualified personnel that provide emergency obstetric care. Hospital-based family planning. The law requires family planning services like ligation, vasectomy, and intrauterine device IUD placement to be available in all government hospitals. Contraceptives as essential medicines. Reproductive health products shall be considered essential medicines and supplies and shall other form part of the National Drug Formulary. Reproductive health education. RH education shall be taught by adequately trained teachers in an age-appropriate manner. Employers' responsibility. Employers shall respect the reproductive health rights of older workers. Women shall not be discriminated against in the matter of hiring, regularization of employment status, or selection of retrenchment. Employees shall provide free reproductive health services and education to workers. Capability building of community-based volunteer workers. Community-based workers shall undergo additional and updated training on the delivery of reproductive health care services and shall either receive not less than 10% in increase in honoraria upon successful completion of training.
Good morning, class. This is my report. It's about critique on the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Act of 2012, Republic Act of Number 10354, also known as RH Law. Provided Act. The law also provides for penalties for persons who perform certain provided acts such as the following: knowingly withholding or impeding the dissemination of information about the programs and services provided for in this act, or intentionally giving or incorrect information. Refusing to perform voluntary ligation and vasectomy and other legal and medically self-reproductive health care services on any person of legal age on the ground of lack of spousal consent or authorization. Refusing to provide reproductive health care services to an abused minor or an abused pregnant minor whose condition is certified to by an authorized DSWD official of personnel even without parental consent, particularly when the parent concerned is the perpetrator. Refusing to extend production health care services and information on account of the patient civil status, gender or sexual orientation, age, religion, circumstances, and nature of works, provided that all consensuous object of health care services provided based on religious ground shall be respected, provided further that the conscientious objector shall be immediately refer the person seeking such care and services to another health care services provided with the same facility or when who is conveniently accessible, provided finally that the patient is not in an emergency or a serious case, as defined in Republic Act 8344, penalizing the refusal of hospital and medical clinics to administer appropriate initial medical treatment and support in emergency and serious cases, and requiring of female applicant or employee as a condition for employment or continued employment voluntarily undergo sterilization, tubal ligation, or any other form of contraceptive method. Legislating RH. The road of the enactment of the RH law was painstaking path. The main blockade was the Constitution provision, particularly that provided in Article 2, Section 12 of the 1987 Constitution, with mandates that the state recognize the sanctity of life. It shall equally protect the life of the mother and the life of the unborn from conception. In this regard, the 1987 Constitution itself mandates that the Philippines government must recognize the importance of life and protect the life of the mother and unborn. And as much an artificial family planning method are labeled as anti-life and against conception, these are interpreted to be against and sanctity of life, making them contrary to say the fundamental law of the land. In addition, these pro-life groups strongly advocate the use of natural methods. On the other hand, advocates of the RH law counter this concept of proliferating abortion or abortifacient product by scientific findings which claim otherwise. What these debates are missing out is clearly the spirit of the law to allow women to choose freely whatever method of farming planning. It is fit the appropriate to them. Claiming that one is the better as compared to their other, delimit there are supposedly free choice that women truly deserve. The long political battle. Talk about unified reproductive health policy had been roaming thick spurs of the Philippines. Government creation of a population commission as a measure of population control to manage highly fertility rates and alleviate poverty. Henceforth, the backlash of the CBCP was unrelenting. The long political battle. The Arch Law was finally enacted in 2012 was a product of 14 years struggle. After its enactment, lobbyists of this law thought that victory was already achieved. However, in March 2013, the law was challenged before the SC of the Philippines, delaying its full implementation. After a year, the law was held to be valid, except the clauses therein that allowed minors to access reproductive health services without the written consent of our guardian, and penal measure for government officials who did not implement the law. In 2018, a further temporary restraining order TRO, issued again by the nation SC, prevented the Food and Drug Administration FDA of the Philippines from procuring, distributing, or issuing new certificates or product registration or more than so different contraceptives, allowing many licenses to eventually expire. The TRO was launched after the FDA registered a contraceptive implant called Implanon, which accordingly could be used to induce abortion 2 years old after the said TRO. The FDA then certified that Implanon and Implanon NXT are not abortifacient. With the TRO finally live, the Department of Health now freely distributes contraceptives to the regional offers and to various NGOs. Thank you.